Welcome, UCL fans, to the unofficial review and ranking for the United Championship League Week 6. I am Nintendo Fanatic 64, and I have crunched the numbers, and I have come up with a fair and accurate rating system for the UCL. Now, I would like to mention that I am in no way affiliated with the UCL or any of its coaches, but of course, if any of them are watching and approve of my rankings, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, or let me know in the comment section if you believe that you should have been ranked differently, or even if you're just a fan watching and you think my rankings are wrong, let me know what you think of the rankings down below as well. Now, before I get into my rankings, I am going to go over all 8 matches that took place this week in the UCL. So, starting off, we have the Philadelphia for Alligators, who had a record of 3-2, taking on the Durham Druddigons, also with a record of 3-2. And there was a 4-0 victory for the Durham Druddigons. The MVP for Durham goes to Mega Charizard X, who managed to get 4 knockouts this week. Up next, we had the undefeated Tucson Terrakions taking on the New York Yankees, who had a record of 2-3. And in a good 3-0 victory match, one of the best matches I've seen so far, went to the New York Yankees. The MVP for New York went to Infernape, who had 4 knockouts this week. Up next, we have the undefeated Bronx Bearticks taking on the Grand Canyon Greninjas with a record of 1-4. And in a 3-0 victory went to the Bronx Bearticks. MVP for the Bronx Bearticks will go to the Manaphy and the Among Us, both with 2 knockouts this week. Up next, we have the Toronto Tokakis with a record of 2-3, taking on the Newcastle Nidokings with a record of 3-2. And a 4-0 victory went to the Newcastle Nidokings. MVP for Newcastle went to Slowbro, who managed to get 3 knockouts this week. Up next, we had the St. Louis Rampardos with a record of 4-1, taking on the Bristol City Blazekins with a record of 2-3. And in a 4-0 victory went to the St. Louis Rampardos. The MVP for St. Louis goes to the Metagross, who managed to get 3 knockouts this week. Up next, we have the Long Island Reggie-Rockies with a record of 3-2, taking on the Manchester Magnazones with a record of 0-5. And in a 1-0 victory went to the Long Island Reggie-Rockies. MVP for Long Island goes to the Mega Manectric, who managed to get 3 knockouts this week. Up next, we have the Tulsa Talonflames with a record of 3-2, taking on the Carolina Keldios with a record of 2-3. The victor by a 2-0 margin went to the Tulsa Talonflames. MVP for Tulsa will go to Salamance, who managed to get 5 knockouts in a row that ended up sweeping the Carolina Keldios. Up next, for the final match of the week, we have the South Beach Slow Kings with a record of 0-5, taking on the Pittsburgh Pichus with a record of 2-3. And in a 5-0 victory went to the Pittsburgh Pichus. MVP for Pittsburgh went to Mega Houndoom, who managed to get 5 knockouts this week that actually swept the South Beach Slow Kings. In interesting facts, before I move on to my ranking system, the Pittsburgh Pichus did trade off the Mega Houndoom back to the Tulsa Talonflames to get the Mega Beedrill back. This trade was originally made 2 weeks ago, and they have traded back. Apparently, Pittsburgh only wanted to borrow the Mega Houndoom, and since trades cannot be made with the same teams 2 weeks in a row, that is why they traded it off 2 weeks ago and then traded back this week, or after the end of this week. So, now we will move on to the rankings that I have set up. Now, as a reminder, the scoring system for rankings, you get 1 point if you manage to knock out an opponent's Pokemon. If a Pokemon falls due to either Life Orb damage, recoil, or any form of a self-destructing move, the team will not earn any points. In addition to that, you also lose a point every time a Pokemon on your side of the field faints. So, starting off at number 16 this week, we have the Manchester Magnazones, whose record is now 0-6 and a score of -25. At number 15, we have the South Beach Slow Kings, whose record is now at 0-6 and a score of -21. At number 14, we have the Carolina Keldios with a record of 2-4 and a score of -13. At number 13, we have the Grand Canyon Greninjas with a record of 1-5 and a score of -11. At number 12, we have the Toronto Tokakis with a record of 2-4 and a score of -7. At number 11, we have the Bristol City Blazekins with a record of 2-4 and a score of -5. Coming in at number 10, we have the the Philadelphia Feraligators and a record of 3-3 with a score of 2 now. At number 9, we have the New York Yankees, whose record now sits at 3-3 and a score of 3. At number 8, we have the Long Island Reggie Rockies, who has a record of 4-2 and a score of 3. Up next is the Pittsburgh Pichus with a record of 3-3 and a score of 4. At number 6, we have the Tulsa Talonflames, whose record now stands at 4-2 and have a score of 4. At number 5, we have the Newcastle Nido Kings, whose record is 4-2 and a score of 6. Coming in fourth right now is the Durham Druddigons, whose record is 4-2 and have a score of 10. At number 3, we have the Tucson Terrakions, who have a record of 5-1 and a score of 10. Now, for the number 2 and the number 1 spots, we'll probably get some controversy behind it. For I have at number 2 the Bronx Bearticks, whose record is 6-0, so have a perfect undefeated record, but only have a score of +13. And I have the St. Louis Rampardos, whose record is only 5-1, but they have a score of 14 on it. So there is room for argument that the Bronx Bearticks should be ranked number 1. However, just going by the scoring system alone, St. Louis is ahead, but only by 1 point. But this could all change. Of course, one of the most anticipated battles this week, I believe, will be the Bronx Bearticks, who take on the New York Yankees, only because New York has already knocked off one undefeated team. Will lightning strike twice? We'll find out this Sunday. Again, this was just an unofficial ranking and review. If you did enjoy the video, please go ahead, leave it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section below what team you're rooting for this season. And I will be back next week with the Week 7 review and ranking as well. Until then, take care and have a good day.